Like, share, and subscribe to my channel as I continue to provide you with trusted information for you to use to make a decision. Today, I want to deal with President-elect and former President of the United States, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. So it's President-elect and former President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump. Now, a number of persons are somewhat afraid. Some are timid, some are apprehensive, some are confused, and some do not know exactly who Mr. Trump is. And they fear Mr. Trump because they argue that he's erratic, impulsive, speak out of term, and does not seem to be truthful. But all those adjectives that I mentioned earlier can only describe, if you think about it, somebody who is truthful. An individual who is truthful and is unscripted. And let me rephrase that. An individual who is truthful is going to be unscripted. And an individual who is scripted is normally, in my opinion, untrustworthy. When an individual is able to speak his or her mind, impromptu, it tells me who you are. I do not fear an individual who tells me who he is and he's a racist. I do not fear an individual who tell me who he or she is and is a bigot. I do not fear an individual who tell me who he or she is and is a murderer. I do not fear an individual who tell me who he or she is who is a liar. I do not fear an individual who tell me who he or she is who is smart. What am I saying to you? If someone tell you openly who they are, you can trust them to be who they are. And all you need to do is to understand who they are and operate within the context of who the person is. That's perfect. Where the challenges arise is when an individual appears to be who he or she is not, and you must live your life based on what that person is projecting. Then there's a problem. Why is there a problem? Because if an individual portray himself to be honest and is a thief, you're going to be operating with him or her based on the projection or based on the image that has been created by that individual. And therefore, you trust the individual to be operating as is described, as is projected, as is stated. So when you're going to be operating, you are operating solely on the premise that you trust the spoken words, behavior, attitude, or intentions of that person as expressed by the individual or as is demonstrated. Now, the challenge now comes in when you realize that your trust was wrongly placed, or that you should not have trusted the person, or what you should have done in the first place was to have distrusted the person. Because what you'll be operating on, you'll be operating on a particular premise that's false. And by operating on that premise that is false, your actions are going to be taken based on false assumptions, based on false concepts, based on false perspectives. And those are going to be detrimental to you. The contrary is also true. When an individual is truthful and tell you who he or she is, then the matter becomes simple. Because all you're doing, you're operating on the premise that you know or you accept what the individual is portraying or behaving or has spoken that he or she is. And therefore, your decisions are going to be based on that. Rarely in those cases will you ever make an error because the individual is truthful and you'd have operated based on the individual's truthfulness. Here is where I understand Mr. Trump. It's clear to me that Mr. Trump is an unscripted individual and speaks his truth. Now, the fact that Mr. Trump is an unscripted, truthful individual, then I respect him because all I will need to do is to operate within the context of who Mr. Trump is. And I can guarantee you, I will not make an error. So will not make an error because Mr. Trump is an unscripted, truthful gentleman. The problem arises is in this world that is scripted, immoral, unjust, deceitful, and unforgiving world. That world sets up people to be destroyed. That world cannot be operated effectively, harmoniously, and beneficial to the average individual because it's operating on a premise of deceit. When a world is operating on that premise and you have a truthful person, then that individual will be considered to be Satan. And many persons will want to portray Mr. Trump as the Antichrist. But clearly, Mr. Trump cannot be the Antichrist when Mr. Trump is the truthful person, unscripted, truthful person in a society which is highly deceptive. Therefore, I trust Mr. Trump. I trust Mr. Trump for telling me who he is in the unscripted, truthful way that he has been doing. Mr. Trump, I am saying, Sir, President, former President, and currently President elect Donald Trump, I trust you for displaying who you are, and I will make my decision based on those truths that you have exhibited over the years. I have no problem with you, sir. And many persons cannot seem to understand that Mr. Trump is operating truthfully in a deceitful world. And that is a problem because the media is trying to sell Mr. Trump as being deceitful when they are the deceitful bastards, when they are deceitful culprits, when they are deceitful agents that do not want a change of currently what exists. Mr. Trump recognizes this and has been seeking to galvanize persons to recognize this deceitful nature, this deceitful structure, and many of the deceitful entities and agents that we need to change it. Mr. Trump's behavior is clearly an indication that we need a world that is better, that is truthful, that is undeceitful, that is transparent, that's accountable, and will reflect your truth openly while you seek to help others to see themselves. That, to me, is the hallmark of what the office of a president is, and the office of a leader, and the office of a prime minister, and the office of a competent and good leader. Now, you may want to argue with me that I'm equally erratic and truthful like Mr. Trump. Oh, yes, I am. And because I am, you can operate in your deceitful nature and tell me what your opinion is. But if you are equally truthful, you will be able to see through the guise of this world and recognize who the former president and the current president-elect of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, really is. He is operating as a truthful agent in an untruthful and deceitful world. Many persons can't see it. Look at it. Take a second and look at it. Review what I'm saying to you. It's difficult to understand. No, it isn't. You have been tainted or sold a lie all these years. And because you have been sold a lie in this deceitful world, you accept the media's perspective, that is a dominant media's perspective, you accept and believe what they have articulated. I'm saying to you, open your eyes. And your eyes don't mean those physical eyes. Open your eyes, which is your brain, your mind. See through the fallacies of this world. See Mr. Trump for who he is. Operate on the premise that Mr. Trump say who he is and you operate within that confines. If you operate within that confines that Mr. Trump is who he say he is, then you will operate effectively, productively, and wholesomely. However, many persons would want you to believe that Mr. Trump is erratic and is foolish. He's clearly not. How can erratic, emotional gentleman operate a business and become a billionaire? Think for a moment. How can erratic individual structure himself to become a billionaire? And some person may want to say, but his father was a millionaire. And that's my point. His father was not a billionaire. And he was able to take his father's resources from a billionaire, from a millionaire to a billionaire. That has to indicate some level of depth, intelligence, astuteness as a business person, as a thinker. Clearly, Mr. Trump is no fluke. You are not seeing the game. You have been deceived for years. Now, I want you to take a minute, understand this game, see the game for what it is, and let's have a discussion. What are your views? Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Share this video with somebody. They may hate my perspective, but I want them to observe and look through the fallacies of this world. Then they'll be able to better understand what this world is all about. Let me hear your comments. Let me hear your comments. Thank you.